Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Pearsall. I'm the community manager here in the SEL and education community, and I am so glad to be able to bring to you today the latest in our SEL and education speaker series. Before we begin, I'm going to start with a land acknowledgement. Committee for Children's offices sit on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, specifically the first people of Seattle, Washington, the Duwamish tribe. As we honor the Duwamish people and their ancestors, it's also important that we consider our place in the past, present, and future history of the indigenous peoples of our region, as well as how we can best support them. Thank you. Today, for our SEL education speaker series, I'm really excited to be able to bring to you one of the people that the SEL education community voted as a winner of the My SEL competition that we had in March for SEL Day. This was a competition where we asked people from around the world to submit their favorite social emotional learning teaching strategies. And we got a bunch of submissions and a bunch of people voted on which ones were their favorite. And one of the people that won was Jaimie Scanlon. Jaimie, welcome to SEL education community. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt. I'm so excited to be here and to share this strategy with the community.
So could you tell us a little bit about the strategy and kind of basically outline what it is?
Sure. Yeah. So the strategy that I submitted was Shinrin Yoku, which is Japanese for forest bathing. And Shinrin Yoku is a practice that started in the 80s and 90s in Japan when the country was really undergoing kind of an industrial boom, and there was just lots of business and people were working very hard, and the city life and kind of intensity of the culture at that time was pretty stressful for a lot of people. So there started to be a lot of stress cases of people going to see their doctors with stress. And so some researchers developed this practice as a preventive and kind of healing health practice. And really, in a simplest way you can put it, it involves just going to a place where there are trees and nature and opening yourself up to it and taking it in. And the belief is that this really has, health improving and stress relieving power for human beings to connect with nature in that way. And I came to it through my own social emotional, learning and efforts to manage my own stress really during the pandemic, working and managing my family and my children being at home, remote learning, as well as working on my SEL certification. So I kind of was able to combine all of that and then share that with the students that I was working with at the time.
That's awesome. So what does this look like? How did you translate this? First of all, I think it's super interesting that this is a research-based practice. This is actually kind of put together by researchers. That's really neat.
Yes. There's a lot of science to it. There's, these lessons, I was just kind of astounded when I realized not only the SEL, the benefits to teaching SEL skills, but also STEM. And, it really kind of involved a lot of learning on so many levels. This research shows that, trees and plants give off these compounds called, these organic compounds called phytocytes that are kind of help the plants fight off pests and diseases, and that we can actually absorb them and when we're in nature, and they can help boost our own immune systems too.
So how did you adapt this for use with students?
So the first thing, I had surveyed my students and asked them what they really wanted to focus on. I gave them a bunch of, SEL related skill topics and areas. And one of the main responses was stress management. This was really early on in the not early on in the pandemic, but early on in the school year after returning from the pandemic closures. So in Vermont, they did start hybrid here in my community in September. So these kids were hybrid, but they were experiencing, you know, some stress and anxiety from, as we all have been through what we've been going through. So I started researching and thinking about ways to do that with them. And so I had been practicing Shinrin Yoku, as I said, on my own, just getting out into the forest whenever I could and trying to just take it in and use mindfulness practice to just relax myself. And I thought, you know, I could do that with these kids. And so this was a remote class that I was teaching. So I wasn't with them in person at first. However, as the spring went on, the school said, well, I think we could do a walking field trip, and if you want to. And I said, yes, let's get them out here. So I was teaching them about Shinrin Yoku, and I was trying to encourage them and saying, Vermont, look around you. We have so many trees and so much forest. I'm sure that, you know, within a few minutes of walking from your home, you can get to some place where there are plants and trees, and just sit and stop and notice. So they were doing journaling. I was giving them journal assignments to do this on their own. Go outside, sit near a tree, and journal about what you see, what you hear, and, you know, engaging the five senses. So that was really how it started.
Can I share there's some photos I want to share with you all that Jaimie shared when she made her original post about this. I think they're a really nice kind of demonstration of what she's talking about.
Yes, as you can see, it's winter time. When we did finally do our walking field trip, we were socially distanced with masks on. It was a little challenging to try to promote a calming, you know, these calming emotional regulation strategies when the children were so excited to be outside. They were pretty, you know, it was very exciting for them. So it took a while to just get calm, but this, you'll see, so Shinrin Yoku involves accepting nature's invitation to us. So there are different types of invitations. There's mindfulness presence invitation, and there's, this is a connecting invitation. So you can see in the top right photo that the children are actually connecting with a tree. They have looked around and found a tree that somehow called to them. And they walk up to the tree, they ask permission to touch it. And so this is really about showing reverence also and respect for nature. And they really responded. I didn't know how they'd respond. I thought they might think it was a little bit strange, or, you know, just think, you know, not know what to make of it, but they really responded to it. And this invitation to touch a tree and connect with a tree involves seeing what you can learn about the tree by touching it, and thinking about how it has weathered many storms, and, you know, making that connection to how our own resilience, and how, you know, we can learn from trees about how they weather wind and storms, and how they're flexible and they bend with the wind, and how their roots are really connect them to the earth. So it was very deep for 5th and 6th graders, but they really got it and responded very well to it.
Cool. I think this is such a neat. I approve of the taste of the SEL education community for voting for this, because I think this is such a neat, interesting way to approach social emotional learning. Kind of reflecting on having done this, what are some of the things that you thought work really well, and what are some of the things that you might do differently when you do this the next time?
Yeah, so one thing that worked really well was preparing the students ahead of time to kind of dive a bit into the culture and the philosophy first, and really teaching them what, you know, the basics of it. There's a lot to it. You can get really deep and involved in learning about Shinrin Yoku, but the basics really are that, you know, the principles of humans' connection as a part of nature. Nature is a part of us. We are a part of it. When we are connected to our computers and our cell phones, and we're not going outside, we're on our video games so much, we're out of balance with nature. So it's about accepting nature's invitation to rebalance our connection to it. So really helping kids understand that philosophy was really helpful. Because we were remote, I also did some virtual Shinrin Yoku experiences. So we watched a video of someone walking through the forest, and I kind of had students talk about it. And so that was helpful. But, you know, really and I would say this, anyone who is interested in doing this and you feel like your school is in too busy or urban a space and you can't get to nature, just getting kids outside of the classroom and in the fresh air, and just anywhere where there are any type of plants or trees, even if it's just right there next to the school ground, to go and sit in that space and take it in and engage the five senses around it. And if I could change anything about it, I mean, I guess I would just keep doing it, you know, make it a regular practice. And I was working with these children in a finite, time frame. So I didn't have the opportunity to continue doing it, but I would recommend to anyone just make a practice of it. And also to have children reflect, through journaling after each experience. What did you, how did you feel? How is it helping you? How does connecting with nature help you manage your emotions or feel better? And just really encouraging them to continue the practice on their own, even if it's just with their friends or their family.
Well, I wish I had students I could go practice. Well, I have children. Maybe I'll go practice it with them, because this just sounds really nice, especially this time of year when it's spring or fall, depending on where you're watching, and it's nice to get outside and just kind of enjoy nature and be mindful of it.
Yes, absolutely. And then the other thing I will say is that it's not hiking. It's very different from hiking.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The quote that I remember is, and that I taught the children, is that Shinrin Yoku is not about going someplace. It's about being someplace. So it's really about just being in nature and just what that is, just taking it all in. And yeah.
It reminds me of something that I read, because I was thinking a lot about hiking, that I read. I have little children, 2 and 5 years old, and it's something that I read about hiking with little children. It's that be ready. They're going to find something maybe 10 feet away from your car, and they're going to want to focus on that, and just let them do it. Don't try to go anywhere when you're hiking with little kids. So it's almost like it feels very similar now. It's like when I go on a hike with my kids and they just want to hang out with this tree or this rock all the time, and I'm like, okay, that's great.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think younger children in particular, they can do that. They can just kind of, engage with the simplicity of what's around them and find it fascinating and interesting. So, so that's wonderful. And then really intentionally, they'll notice what they see, but having them touch and feel and really intentionally say, what do you hear? What do you hear that's far away from you? What do you hear that's close to you? And really intentionally engaging the five senses. I mean, because it was winter, I felt like there would probably be fewer smells and tastes. So I brought along some sprigs of thyme and rosemary to help them engage their sense of smell. I had them kind of pinch some needles on the, evergreen trees and see if they could smell. And then for taste, I did bring some Japanese green tea to sit and have tea together. And part of that connecting invitation is also thinking about the connections that you have to the people that you're with when you go to the forest. So the final kind of wrap up was to think about how we appreciate our connections to each other. So that was a really nice way to wrap it up.
Well, speaking of wrapping it up, I just want to say thank you so much, Jaimie, for coming and talking with us about this practice. I think it's fascinating, and I think on behalf of everyone here in the SEL education community, thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm very happy if anyone has any questions or would like some information or further resources, feel free to, I guess you can use the original post on the Facebook page and message me. I'm happy to share any resources that I've used.
And I'll drop a link to that into the chat for wherever you happen to be watching this right now. I'll come back and drop that link in so that you'll be able to find it. All right, so I also want to let everybody know that we've got more stuff coming up in the SEL education community next week. We have a very cool event coming up. We're going to be doing a special rebroadcast of an event from last October that featured Goldie Hawn, the founder of Mind Up, speaking with Dr. Jean Clinton, a renowned child psychiatrist, about supporting brain development with love. So we're going to be having that rebroadcast next week, and then immediately following that rebroadcast, we're going to have a live question and answer session with Dr. Jean Clinton, hosted by SEL and Education founder Mark Sparble. So you should be there. There's invites in the SEL education community right now, so that you can come and join those. And we would love to have you attend both of those events next week. And if you're watching this somewhere that isn't the SEL education community and you're wondering what I'm talking about, we would love to have you come join us. The SEL education community is one of the largest communities of practice for social emotional learning out on the internet. And you can find us on Facebook right here. You don't even need a Facebook account to come in and see it. You can just go to this link and you can see and join in the conversation. So until next week, thank you all very much, and take care. Be healthy.